There are a lot of Home Alone movies, and yet only the first one really seemed to be special. When we think of Home Alone, the first things that come to mind are probably Christmas, adults getting pulverized by traps, and yet all the following movies have these moments, but none of them work as well. So I watched all of the Home Alone movies to figure out what makes that first movie stand out. And then I thought it'd be fun to score the rest of the movies to see which ones were the most Home Alone-like stories. I decided to focus on the story specifically and not things like the production quality or acting for two reasons. The main reason actually had to do with the second movie. At a glance, Home Alone 2 feels the most similar to the original. We have the same main cast, as well as the same writer and director of the first movie. It seemed to follow all the same story beats, and yet it had none of the emotional weight of the first one. I actually cried a couple of times rewatching Home Alone, while none of the other movies really elicited much emotionally from me at all. So while Home Alone 2 is definitely the second best movie of the franchise, it got me curious why it felt so different, and it was inspecting the story that gave me the answers. The second reason I want to focus on the story is it doesn't feel fair to make direct comparisons when the last 3 movies were made straight for television. Like, I think some of the later movies with a better budget could have actually been better than Home Alone 2. And I don't know what the hell happened with Home Alone 3. It doesn't have any excuse. It was actually released in theaters. But we'll get to that later. So join me in exploring the Christmas classic Home Alone and the rest of its bizarre franchise as we figure out what makes a good Home Alone story. Before we get started, please subscribe and click that bell if you don't want to leave our future videos behind. I will be spoiling all the Home Alone movies, but honestly, don't watch them, except for the first one. The first one's fine. So let's take a look at that original Home Alone movie and break down what made the story so good. I hadn't seen Home Alone in a long time, and I was honestly surprised just how good of a movie it is. I think being older and a parent allowed me to appreciate a lot more moments. Like this time around, I could really feel the desperation of trying to get back to your child and the guilt you'd feel, which kind of brings me to the first thing that is crucial to Home Alone. The story is great at playing with the different perspectives between children and adults. As the viewer, we need to be able to understand and empathize where both Kevin and his mom are coming from. So when this happens, we know that it was reasonable for Kevin to lash out given the constant harassment he was receiving on top of feeling ignored. I got really upset watching everyone treat Kevin like garbage here, and no one stands up for him, which in a way ended up making me empathize more with the mom later on because she's so clearly in the wrong here. Like, she basically tells Kevin, yeah, everyone is right, you suck.
Just stay up there. I don't want to see you again for the rest of the night.
And then she gives an extremely demeaning punishment, basically saying no one wants you around. Just an absolutely awful thing to hear from your mother, especially after everything else. But we do all make mistakes as parents. The movie does a good job of making you really feel the absolute chaos and stress in the household. And if I'm being honest, it's highly likely that is a situation I would fail as a parent if something went wrong. So I can't imagine how upset I'd be with myself if I acted like this already to my child, let alone if right afterwards my child ended up being left behind. Not only would I be worried about them being in danger, but I'd be horrified to think they may feel abandoned. On top of Kevin's mom feeling guilty, we see Kevin actually does blame himself, which is simultaneously funny that he may believe a wish could really work and send his family away, but also incredibly sad. He's the child here who didn't receive any empathy or understanding, and now he's blaming himself for a situation that's not his fault. Going back and forth between Kevin and his mom's perspective provides a contrast that gets us emotionally invested in the drama and seriousness of the situation, while simultaneously being humorous because every time we switch to Kevin, the mood is lightened. Because as the audience, we know he's really okay, and even though Kevin blames himself, at least it's not because he thinks his family left him behind on purpose. So a good Home Alone story needs to play with these different perspectives, especially because it's where most of the humor and fun of the movie comes from. Which brings us to the second core element of any Home Alone story. It has to be fun. It's absurd to think how many things have to go wrong to actually leave Kevin behind and cut him off from communication. It's ridiculous, but that works because it's a fun movie. It's funny to see what Kevin thinks being an adult is all about.
Is this toothbrush approved by the American Dental Association?
Or what things scare him. and of course the cartoonish level of violence with the traps and the dynamic between the wet bandits themselves. But a great Home Alone story also has really touching moments, like having an adult character experience growth that is inspired by our child protagonist. For example, we have Old Man Marley.
Yeah. Look out!
Who apparently wasn't in the original version of the script written by John Hughes, which is kind of baffling to think about because of how perfect of an addition he is to this movie. Old Man Marley works perfectly with the two story elements I already brought up, but also adds a moment for the child and adult perspective to come together. We get this beautiful moment where Kevin is able to pass on a simple childlike wisdom to an old man, reminding us that as silly as a child's view of the world may be, adults often have a flawed view of the world as well. And it's not just a preachy moral. We have this paid off at the end of the film when we see Old Man Marley clearly took what Kevin said to heart. It's this kind of small detail that elevated Home Alone from a good story to a great one. And finally, what every Home Alone story needs is character growth for our child protagonist. This is the heart of the story and the most important aspect, since we're going to see the story mostly through their perspective. It doesn't really work if the child is already perfect at the start of the movie. Kevin feeling incapable at the start adds to the emotional impact of the mother's fear and guilt, as well to the joy of seeing Kevin overcome his foes. So we want to see the child successfully handle more than they thought they were capable of. Kevin at the start of the movie is overwhelmed at the idea of having to pack his suitcase, because he's never done it. But by the end of the movie, he's successfully bought groceries, defended his home, and even cleaned up the house and decorated for Christmas. He's perhaps better at adulting than many of us. Those are the four main pillars of what I think makes a great Home Alone story. So now, for the fun part, let's talk about those other Home Alone movies. I'm going to score each movie based on its story using the following system. Effectively using different perspectives will be worth 25 points, and another 25 points for how fun the story is. Adult character growth inspired by the child protagonist will be worth 10, and the most important one, child character growth, will be 40 points. Giving us a nice, easy total of 100 points to work with. And just a reminder, I'm only talking about the story itself and not the quality of these movies. All right, let's jump in. So first up is Home Alone 2, which is generally considered to be good. In fact, I wouldn't recommend watching pretty much any of the Home Alone movies after this one, but let's see how the story holds up. So the biggest flaw is kind of that it's the same family before. Like, it's a little hard to believe the mom would talk this way with Kevin after everything that happened the year before.
Well, you got your wish last year. Maybe you'll get it again this year.
And the house doesn't really feel chaotic this time. So Kevin's mistreatment doesn't really feel understandable at all. It just feels cruel. Kevin has also already proven he is capable, so while being in New York City does kind of up the stakes since he is in an unknown environment this time, it also means he is choosing to throw himself in danger, whereas the first movie felt like he didn't have a choice. This makes the traps and everything feel more cruel and kind of takes away from the fun. And then one of the biggest things that bothers me in this movie is the pigeon lady. At first it felt similar to Old Man Marley, because we once again see Kevin offer wisdom that it's worth opening our heart, even if it means we get hurt sometimes. And it's genuinely heartwarming when Kevin gives her one of the turtle doves, proving that he didn't forget about her. But here's the thing. That's not really character growth for her. She isn't able to improve her life with the wisdom Kevin has given her because her main problem is she's homeless. Like, is the movie trying to imply she's homeless because she closed off her heart? And it just feels extra weird because meanwhile his family is celebrating with tons of free gifts they got in one of the most expensive hotels in the city. But hey, she got a turtle dove. Like, once you stop and think about this at all, it's not really that heartwarming. She could have been invited in and maybe that leads to getting a job for the toy store, or she ends up going back with a family or something. I don't know. Almost anything would have been better than this. Even Kevin being scared of her at first feels kind of awful. Like, sure, he's a kid, but adults don't treat homeless people well either. So it doesn't really feel fun, like, oh, haha, silly kid is afraid of the homeless person, how cute. So all of this considered, the different perspectives and fun of this movie weren't nearly as good, so I'm only going to give it 10 and 12 respectively for those categories. There was also almost no growth for any characters in this movie, so I'm only going to give 1 for adult character growth, and I'll give a little bit of charity and toss 4 points in child character growth, since I guess you could argue there's some growth for Kevin in trying to care for others, but even that feels like a stretch, giving us a whopping total of 27 points for Home Alone 2's story.
This cat they talking about, I wonder who could it
Okay, now we start diving into some really weird movies. If you haven't seen it, the third installment of this franchise is a spy movie. We don't even meet the child protagonist for 20 minutes. It's all set up for establishing the importance of this computer chip that could apparently mean the destruction of the world because it would make our missiles ineffective.
Whoever possesses this chip could dominate the entire region.
Oh, and hey, look, Black Widow is in it. So, okay, it's a weird movie, but how good of a Home Alone story is it? Well, there is zero character growth in this. The Kevin of this movie, named Alex, is basically right about everything. It's like the boy who cried wolf, only there really was a wolf every time and no one believed him. His elderly neighbor is just a jerk to him, and Kevin ends up saving her from the international spies. So that's a 0 for both categories related to growth. And yes, I'm just going to refer to all the child protagonists as Kevin from now on. Home Alone 3 only receives 2 points in how it utilizes different perspectives because the only emotional weight it really adds is the mom being pressured by her job to leave her sick child at home. There's not really any clever misunderstandings or insights otherwise. Now, the movie is a little fun, but not in the way it intended. I'm giving it 7 points for being so bad it's pretty funny sometimes. And I guess to be fair, it might be a little fun for children as this movie is definitely more pure wish fulfillment for them. That brings us to a whopping total of 9 points, making the Home Alone where Kevin saves American imperialism and exceptionalism the worst Home Alone story out of the entire franchise. I honestly cannot believe Roger Ebert thought this was better than the first 2 movies. Maybe there's something to dig into there about how apparently upsetting it is for some adults to see a realistic child portrayed on screen that is flawed and human versus a perfectly well-behaved child, and what that says about our judgment and expectations of children. Home Alone 4 Taking Back the House is the first of the franchise that was made straight for television, and it really shows. What's really weird with this one is it's like a reboot of the original McAllister family, so this is actually Kevin, and this is Marv. But in this reality, Kevin's parents got a divorce, and now his dad is having a midlife crisis, so he gets a younger girlfriend who is also rich. That's not just me saying that either. Kevin actually has a moment giving wisdom to his dad where he says just that.
I know all about the inner child, Dad.
You do, huh?
That's why old guys drive sports cars.
Oh, and Kevin also only has 2 siblings now, I guess. I don't know, maybe in this version, like 2 of them died or something. I don't know, they really don't address that at all. Like I said, it's really weird. I have no idea why they tried to force this to use the same characters. It was really confusing, and I wasn't even sure if it was supposed to be the same people until Kevin recognizes Marv.
It's Marv!
David Stern, the original actor for Marv, was actually asked to reprise his role, but he read the script and said it was an insult, total garbage, and refused to. I don't know, that just cracks me up. Of the stories, this is the least fun, getting only 2 points. Even the traps were pretty weak, where it's a lot of Kevin using voice commands to make the mansion do stuff.
Maximum speed. Sesame.
The film does at least try to play with different perspectives, but they all fall pretty flat, only earning 5 points. It tries to do these weird twists where characters seem really nice and understanding of Kevin, but oops, they're actually terrible. Like, the girlfriend is apparently understanding at first.
Anyway, what's a little damage?
But then the next time something happens, she just outright threatens Kevin.
Because if you ever do anything like that again, you'll be out of this house so fast your head will spin. So your father's getting divorced. Boo-hoo.
This maid is really nice to Kevin, but it turns out she's actually the one helping the burglars because she's Marv's mother. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. They're not actually burglars in this movie. Their great plan is to kidnap a prince for ransom money. The one redeeming quality of this movie is Kevin first suspects the butler, who is really nasty to him, but it turns out the butler just hates his job. Completely relatable, and it leads in nicely to Kevin giving him wisdom that maybe the butler should quit, which pays off at the end of the movie. I only ended up giving 5 points for adult character growth though, because I had to take away some points for the arc of Kevin's father. There's something really disturbing about plots that involve the child trying to get his parents back together. I don't know, maybe that's a topic to dive into for a future video. Kevin only earns 2 points in child character growth because, like the child in Home Alone 3, he's basically just always right and the adults don't listen to him. But I guess you could argue he learns a little bit in this film, which means Home Alone 4 Taking Back the House comes just barely ahead of the third one at 14 points. The fifth installment, called Home Alone: The Holiday Heist, is about a family just moving into a new neighborhood. The setup has the parents worrying about the kids having too much screen time. They feel bad they had to move across the country for a new job, but ultimately hope this will lead to their children getting off electronics more and enjoying the outdoors and making friends. It's pretty cheesy, but the outdoor elements actually end up separating the parents from the kids as they get snowed in at a mountain lodge, which they were at for a Christmas party for the new job. The burglars are trying to retrieve a famous painting from a secret room in the basement of the family's new house that the family are unaware of. Kevin's sister is also stuck home with him, so there's an additional element of them getting along as siblings while still leaving Kevin on his own for most of the film. I actually really liked how this film used the different perspectives, landing at 20 points. There was a whole thing about Kevin being really scared their new house is haunted, and then later he tries to make the house seem haunted to scare off the burglars. I also expected the film to end up being really preachy about screen time, but it actually showed a lot of value in them while still showing the value of enjoying other parts of life as well. I thought it was pretty great Kevin finds out his online gaming friend is actually a college adult and how the movie handles that. The friend thinks Kevin is asking for advice about a video game and then realizes he's really talking about burglars in real life, so he tries to call for help. Although this joke where Kevin's parents mistake the call as a threat, which results in Kevin's friend being swatted, is, well, I guess it's something.
You got it all wrong. I just play video games. God!
Which brings us to the weakest part of the story. It's not very fun. None of the traps really stood out to me. The burglars seemed a little more mean-spirited to each other, and it felt weird knowing the leader is actually trying to retrieve a painting that belongs to his family. All in all, I only give it 5 points for fun. While I did like the online friend being the adult that learns a moral from Kevin in this one, it doesn't really feel like character growth, so it only gets 2 points. Basically, the moral lesson is the holidays aren't the same without a family to spend it with. But it comes across as the friend not really learning that so much as he tried to rationalize to himself that playing video games all day was great because it's not like he had the money to go visit his family anyhow. Although, unlike Home Alone 2, when there is a reward at the end of the movie for Kevin's family, the family actually sends the friend money so he can see his family after all. It's a nice moment, but again, not really character growth. And I can't believe that they really lean into that SWAT joke again.
I heard the arresting officers pepper sprayed you a lot.
Yeah, they were just doing their job.
On your feet! On your feet!
Now Kevin actually has a lot of growth in this one, so I'm going to give it 35 points. Much like the first movie, he has to overcome fears and realizes he's more capable than he thought. He ends up getting along with his sister, overcoming his fears of the house, and even makes some friends. Although, just as a random aside, I thought it was funny that Kevin's parents made a big deal about befriending this kid across the street. They're basically like, Kevin, you should be more like this kid, who actually enjoys being outside. Meanwhile, every time we see this kid, he's just all by himself playing with snow all day, every day. So it seems like he doesn't exactly have any friends either. I'm going to give the film the benefit of the doubt though, and assume that they did this on purpose, because it didn't really lean into the typical screen time fears we see in media. So all in all, The Holiday Heist comes in pretty strong with its story receiving a total of 62. Now we come to the latest installment that was released straight to Disney+. I actually think this story had a lot of potential. The burglars in this one we get to know really well and are two parents who are hoping to just get their doll back because as a collector's item, it will get them enough money to save them from having to sell their house. When they realize Kevin didn't actually take their doll, they realize they've been tormenting a little kid, and the two families end up becoming long-term friends. It's a fun new way of playing with the misunderstandings that come about with the different characters' perspectives. I'm only going to give it 16 points though, because while the film does a great job of establishing the burglars in this one, it really lacks in making us empathize with Kevin or his mom. There's actually some good fun in this movie, but ultimately I only ended up giving it an 11. There's some great traps, but since the movie doesn't do a good job of connecting us with Kevin, it takes away from the fun and you more just feel bad for the burglars. And this VR trap was so bad, I had to remove some points for that alone. I really liked how they used the cameo of Buzz McAllister. Not sure how I feel about the wife flirting with him here, but I thought it was pretty funny to use him as a plot device to just miss the call the cops receive because apparently Kevin sends in a prank call every year to mess with him.
Guess what? The place had a McAllister home alarm system. Oh, gee, the coincidence?
And I enjoyed how the movie poked fun at itself.
Oh, this is garbage. I don't know why they were always trying to remake the classics.
with the in-universe film being remade.
I'm gonna give you to the count of 10.
Honestly, one minor change that I think would have made this movie a lot better was if they let us know as the audience that Kevin never had the doll. This is an instance where the twist actually hurts the story. If we had known all along that Kevin didn't have the doll, we would have still felt bad for the burglars, but it would have made it funnier knowing that Kevin was actually innocent and it was all a misunderstanding. This would easily have given more points to both of the first two categories. It might have even added to the feeling of adult character growth in the film, given that Kevin's mom and the burglar were being kind of awful to Kevin here.
Ooh, what a McShane.
And we might have even felt more empathetic for Kevin to immediately find out he was being falsely accused. But ultimately, there's not much character growth for the adults in the film, so it only gets 1 point. I think it would have helped if Kevin's family members visiting were a little more awful too. They do come off as annoying and pretty judgmental, but I don't think it's quite enough to let us feel how much Kevin and his mom clearly dislike them.
Christmas is all about spending time with family. Even if everything they do makes you anxious, furious, and insane.
And finally, while I felt there was a little bit of growth for Kevin in this film, it didn't feel like they spent enough time for us to understand his fears or what he wasn't good at to really see him grow in any meaningful way, so I'm only giving 8 points. Making Home Sweet Home Alone the second best Home Alone story of the sequels with a total 36 points. So in the end, it looks like the final rankings for the Home Alone sequels are as follows. And dead last, we have Home Alone 3 with 9 points. Just barely ahead, coming in 4th place, is Home Alone 4, taking back the house with 14 points. Home Alone 2, while definitely the most enjoyable movie to watch of the bunch, only gets 3rd with 27 points. Disney Plus's Home Sweet Home Alone has 36 points, giving it 2nd place. And coming in first for the best Home Alone story is Home Alone: The Holiday Heist with 62 points. It was a lot of fun going through the franchise to figure out what really made that first one so special. But I want to reemphasize, I do not recommend watching any of these movies except for the original. If you haven't watched Home Alone in a while, I think you're in for a treat. There's also a great performance by John Candy I didn't even mention as a bonus too.
Polka, polka, polka. No?
I'm wondering if there are any other movies that follow this formula that might be better Home Alone stories. If you can think of any, let me know in the comments. And let me know what you think of my rankings. Did I miss something that made Home Alone's story so great? Thanks for watching, everyone. And a special thanks to our patrons for all of your support. If you like this, please consider letting YouTube know by hitting that thumbs up. And if you'd like to check out more of our videos, maybe subscribe or consider supporting us over on Patreon. Take care of yourself, and remember,
keep the change, you filthy animal.
No, not that. Remember, you're not alone.